Welcome back to our Better Thinking series presented by Spark Studios. My goal is to create content that engages your mind and helps spark your ideas. In this video series, we take concepts from popular books and break them down into micro-learning opportunities. In today's world, it is more important now than ever to learn how to think more clearly and use different mental frameworks. Apply these concepts to your life and solve your own problems. The book we are discussing today comes from Volume 1 of The Great Mental Models written by Shane Parrish and Rhiannon Bogan. I highly suggest adding this book to your personal library. We will discuss each mental model and provide context to each example. As we progress through the video, think about how you can apply this information to your own life. First principles thinking, also referred to as reasoning from first principles, is a powerful tool which helps people clarify complex problems. The goal is to separate the underlying ideas and facts, leaving only the essentials. If you know the first principles of a subject, you can use that foundation to build the rest of your knowledge and construct something new. The idea of building knowledge from first principles has a long tradition in philosophy, going back to Plato and Socrates, and including contributions from Aristotle. These thinkers sought foundational knowledge that would not change. All other knowledge, ethical systems, and social structures could be built upon these principles. When using first principles thinking, the goal is not necessarily to find absolute truths in everything. Instead, the thinking process identifies the elements that are non-reducible within the context of a given situation. Visualize a large skyscraper, and you might be a construction crew making changes to this building. If you were to strip away most of the building, what are the most important parts you have that will keep the building standing? This underlying framework is how you have to think about ideas as well. Once you identify the scaffolding, or the most foundational ideas, you can then rebuild and recreate and think of new ways of thinking. For example, instead of thinking about something the way it's always been done, you have to dig deeper to irreducible facts and reason from those facts upwards. Most people reason by analogy. They look at what others are doing and copy it with slight variations. First principle thinkers ignore how things have always been done, and they ask questions such as, what's actually true about this at the most basic level? In a nutshell, you can think of things in 3 layers. The first is the most superficial layer and is the conventional way of thinking. This is your industry standard. You'll hear people often say, that's how things are done. Layer 2 involves reasoning and asking deeper questions about it. Why is it done this way? What's the reason behind it? What would happen if we did things differently? The third and deepest layer is the stripped away and irreducible facts that cannot be argued with. These are your first principles, or the bedrock, which then you can provide the foundation and build upon again. To take it a step further, let's discuss 2 techniques for identifying first principles and cutting through shared beliefs. Technique number 1 is Socratic questioning. This is a disciplined process of questioning used to establish truths, reveal underlying assumptions, and separate knowledge from ignorance. It's a systematic approach that stops reliance on instinct or strong emotional responses. The steps include the following. Let's clarify your thinking by explaining the origins of your ideas. Try to challenge your assumptions. How do you know what is true and how do you know what is false? Look for evidence. What resources are you using as evidence to uphold your thoughts? Can you objectively dissect the evidence as well? Consider alternative perspectives. What other ways of thinking might be available to problem solve? Are you looking at things through different lenses? Also, examine consequences and implications. Instead of thinking of the best case scenario, can you foresee problems, issues, or complications arising in the future? Lastly, question all the original questions. Can you think of other ways to continue viewing this question? Is yours the best way? The second technique is the 5 whys. Think about the instinctive curiosity of children, where they always involve repeatedly asking why. Take this approach to whatever you're trying to solve. Keep asking why and see what level of why begins to test your own mental process and reasoning. The goal is to separate reliable knowledge from assumption. If the whys result in a statement of falsifiable fact, you have reached the first principle. If they end with an arbitrary statement like, because I said so, or it just is, you landed on an assumption based on popular opinion, a cultural myth, or a dogma, which is not a first principle. Force yourself to think deeper and confront ignorances and gaps of knowledge. We will discuss some examples for you to see it more in action. Example number 1 is the sterile stomach dogma. For decades, scientists assumed that the stomach was sterile and that bacteria could not survive in high acidic environments like that. This dogma was taken as the first principle by doctors and researchers, meaning that they never looked for a bacterial cause when patients complained of stomach pain. Pathologist Robin Warren observed bacteria in stomach samples, realizing that the sterile stomach was actually an assumption, not a first principle. By questioning the associated dogma and challenging assumptions, they opened up new areas of research. This work eventually led to the discovery of H. pylori as a bacteria as the cause of many stomach ulcers. In today's common practice now, medicine treats stomach ulcers effectively with antibiotics. This practice would not have changed unless the underlying thought was challenged. Example number 2 is the transportation problem. Conventional thinking regarding transportation might sound something like this: people need to own cars for transportation. Think about how this idea alone has shaped the car industry for decades. There isn't a show or movie that goes by without you seeing an advertisement for a new car. Every year there's new models, new features. This area represents one of Americans' biggest source of debt. Then comes along companies like Uber and Lyft, which disrupts the entire industry. Let's break down their business model through a first principles approach. What's the actual need of a car? Getting from point A to point B. Companies like these ask themselves, do people need to own their cars, or do they just need access to one? What if cars sat idle 95% of the time while people pay for full ownership? If we pooled our car resources, what would the business model look like, and would it remain profitable? The results for Uber and Lyft have clearly spoken for themselves. Lastly, example 3 is reimagining space travel. Elon Musk wanted to send a rocket to Mars in 2002. The problem? Rockets cost $65 million. Rather than accepting this as reality, he asked first principle questions. What is a rocket made of? Aerospace grade aluminum alloys, titanium, copper, carbon fiber. What's the actual commodity value of those materials? The actual answer is about 2% of the typical price. He realized that rockets were overpriced because of inefficient manufacturing, not because of the actual material costs. This realization led to SpaceX, which eventually caused and created reusable rockets that cut costs dramatically. As we conclude the video, take time to reflect upon how you can implement first principles thinking into your own life. Can you reflect and evaluate domains of your life where you are reasoning by analogies and convention rather than first principles thinking? I hope this video has introduced the topic to you and provided you with clear examples of the topic. As the world continues to progress in the realm of technology, it is more important now than ever to think more clearly. I thank you for watching Spark Studios, where my goal is to help spark your ideas. If you enjoy thought leadership content like this, please subscribe.